I'll get to the wide noodles later, but for now I'm concentrating on the lamb shank and the aromatic broth, and actually the gochujang does most of the work. So I've got a litre of cold water there, and I want a tablespoon of gochujang. I mean, a little goes a long way, so this is hot. Stir it in to help it on its way. And in goes the lamb shank. And now for the veg, no peeling required. 1 carrot and some coins of fresh ginger, plus a couple of banana shallots halved and 2 bruised cloves of garlic. Then star anise and allspice berries with their sweet, musky pepperiness. And a particular favourite, cumin seeds. As with all broths, you need to salt vigorously. Enough water to cover and heat until it comes to the boil. Then clamp on the lid and cook in a 150 centigrade oven, that's 130 with the fan on, for 2.5 hours. I take the tender meat off the bone and strain the broth over it before letting it cool. And to allow the flavours to deepen and mellow, I leave to chill in the fridge overnight. The fabulously fiery colour of this broth is an absolutely fair indication of the warmth it bestows. Now, I am a great believer in fat, but what I want from this is piercing clarity. So I'm just removing those orange shards of fat. That was strangely satisfying. And now, the lamb. I'm going to shred it just a bit. I don't want it to go stringy, but I want to be able to have it in spoon-sized pieces. And now for the broth. Ooh, look at that. It's got the slight quiver of jelly in it. I don't want to lose any of this precious liquid, so I'm going to heat it with the lid on and very, very gently. I can forget about that now because I have wide noodles to cook, and although I do want one day to make those wonderful sort of cat's cradle of biang bang noodles, right now I am very happy with pappardelle. In with the aromatic broth, I want not only the softness of the lamb, the robust tangle of the pasta, but the crunchy leafiness of cabbage. What nice chunky strips. And I just cook the cabbage in the pasta pan when the pappardelle are almost ready. Little stir. It's time. First, the cabbage and wide noodles. Lamb, ready for succulent spoonfuls. And of course, my aromatic broth. I love the quiet ceremony of assembling this. That's not quite it. I am a complete condiment queen, And what I need on this, well, on many things, is Chinese crispy chili. It makes everything sing. This is bowl food at its best. I'm ready for total immersion now. Fish and chips, eggs and bacon, Colcannon and my black pudding meatballs. Some foods are just made for one another. And what I'm talking about is rich, buttery, kale-flecked mash with soft, sweet meatballs in tomato sauce. If you're after deep-flavoured wintry comfort, look no further. I begin by making the sauce for the meatballs. And as so often, this starts with a chopped onion, which I cook patiently until soft. Now all I need to do is add some freshly chopped parsley, fried thyme, and a clove of garlic. Then I need a tin of chopped tomatoes, and as ever, I swill the tin out with cold water before tipping that in too. I dollop in some tomato puree for sweetness and depth, shake in some Worcester sauce, and sprinkle in sea salt flakes. Then I give it all a stir and let it simmer away while I get on with the meatballs. I love making meatballs. It reminds me of making them with my children when they were small. Their little hands perfectly sized for rolling. Not that I would have made these then. The black pudding would have been wasted on them. Actually, it's wasted on a lot of people, so I make these just for those who are predisposed to adore it. And for myself, I come into that category. I use half as much black pudding as I do minced beef. Don't get low-fat beef, whatever you do. And on top of these, a fat clove of garlic. I'm echoing the flavours of the sauce. Parsley, again. And some dried thyme. But I'm adding some chives as well. Meatballs always have to be packed with flavour, and I'm adding a teeny bit of chili flakes. A bit of heat in there is so right with that sort of deepness of the black pudding, that gamey sausage pate. Some porridge oats. Now, I use these just to add a bit of lightness to the meatballs. You know, you can use breadcrumbs, but there's oats in black pudding, so I use them here, and they absorb the flavours of the meat, of the spices, and, importantly, the salt. You need quite a lot, and a really good grinding of pepper. I use white pepper. Finally, an egg. Oh, and now I can get stuck in. And now I can just get a roll in. I like to make these quite small. It may sound strange, but I find such beauty in this bowl. That wonderful red, the black flecked with green. One of the great joys of these repetitive processes. Ask nothing of me except for my hands to rule. I now gently drop these beauties into the sauce, aiming, if not succeeding, for concentric circles. Then when they're all cosily nestled in, I leave them to bubble away for 30 minutes covered. My potatoes are beckoning me, but then potatoes always beckon me. So I've cooked them whole. These have been boiled and drained, and I've just been keeping them warm and drying them out a bit in the hot pan. And I'm ready to set to with my mechanical masher. Now, I'm aiming for quite a solid mash at this stage, but I still need a bit of milk, full fat, which I've warmed in the microwave. One of the reasons you don't have to worry about leaving the skin in the mashed potatoes is that you're going to add cabbage, or in my case, kale. So it's never going to have a smooth texture, and it's not meant to. So here's my kale, properly cooked, really cooked. And although I have been draining it, I want to give it a squeeze to get any excess water out. And now I am going to chop the kale. By chop, I just mean get my scissors onto every little bit, snip away. There we are. This is what begins to turn mash into Colcannon. This is going to be brown butter Colcannon, so I better start browning my butter. But first, I have some spring onions to slice. I want all the white and the green. Brown butter is literally that. I'm cooking this butter until it browns. The French call it beurre noisette, and it is indeed hazelnut brown by the time it's ready, but it also has a sort of a distinct rich nuttiness. I think of it really as caramelized butter, with all the gorgeousness that implies. Is there anything better than a butter facial? I'm going to give a bit of a scrape at the bottom. And the speckles are wonderful and dark. We're nearly at hazelnut brown. I'm going to take the lid off my potatoes in readiness, because I will have to act fast. Right. Throw in the spring onions, or scallions, as I feel I should call them in the context of Colcannon. And in this goes. Look at that gorgeousness. You see, I love those black speckles. A lot of people, especially in restaurants, they like to sieve that out, but there's so much flavour. And now you can see why I wanted the mash to be slightly more solid earlier, because look at that texture with all this brown butter. Dolloping time. The reason I've left those peaks is because I've got a little bit more brown butter and spring onions to sprinkle on top. That black speckles, or my black speckled scallions. These are dreamy enough just as they are, but I'm all for maximising pleasure. And it's meatball time. Come here, my babies. Maybe one more. And I'm going for the double allium effect. I'm going to sprinkle with some chives. Sheer happiness. Now, for the elixir, I don't use the anchovies that come packed in oil, either in tins or jars, but these which have been just preserved in salt. And they are so beautiful with that minky brownness and their silver. And they need to be soaked just to get the excess salt. So I'm going to release them into this pool. And I can get on with the rest of the elixir. The easiest thing to make the elixir in is a bullet blender, although you can use a stick blender. And I want extra virgin olive oil, 175 millilitres. And against the pepperiness of the oil, the sharp kiss of lemon, and quite a lot of it. It's about the juice of a whole lemon. I'd say about 2.5 tablespoons. And garlic, a lot of garlic. I've got 3 juicy fat cloves here. Right, the anchovies. I don't fillet the anchovies. I mean, I take their tails off because, you know, they're going to be blitzed anyway. You can actually use these salt-packed anchovies exactly as you would tinned anchovies, soak them as I have, and then carefully remove the backbones. The last one. All I need now is some water, 125 millilitres. This is cold water, and I want it to help emulsify as I blitz. And I am ready. I am more than ready. I am filled with impatient anticipation. Okay, put your fingers in your ears. I'm going to make a really horrible noise, but only briefly. Ah, a moment of serenity now. Now, when I first made this, I had it as a dip for crudité. I find red chicory the perfect vessel this is so good. But I have since learnt, extensive researching, in other words, eating, that as a sauce for steak, it is unparalleled. So I'm just going to light my griddle. You know, I tend to use rump or sirloin. What's important for me is that it's about 2 to 3 centimetres thick. I like my steak rare, so I just give it 3 minutes aside. Oh, I can't wait. steak needs to rest after it comes off the griddle. 5 minutes. I like to make a baggy but tightly sealed foil package. And while the steak rests, I've just got one thing I need to do. Some freshly chopped chives. So excited, it's better than unwrapping a Christmas present. Beautiful. I'm aiming to carve it in thin slices on the diagonal. I'm going to have to focus as I do this because, as you probably don't need me to tell you, I don't have the finest knife skills. I'm sorry, I can't wait. I have to just have this bit now. So against the tender sweetness of the meat, the rasping, deep salinity of the elixir. There's only one other thing this and I am calling for, and that's chopped chives. Which is my idea of heaven. Normally, when you line a tin, you have to be very neat and fastidious, which is really not my strong point. So I love making this cheesecake because all the crinkles and wrinkles are part of the look. I'm aiming for rustic ramshackleness. But I do need to weigh it down when I actually get on with the cheesecake. Unsurprisingly, we're starting with cream cheese, quite a lot of it, 600 grams. And this has stood out of the fridge for quite a time. This makes the crucial difference with cheesecake. If you start off with it cold, it never gets really smooth. And 175 grams of caster sugar. Just going to put it all in now before I get a whirring. I just want to mix these together till they're really creamy. It's a very easy cheesecake to make. I mean, there is no base, and everything just needs to be mixed up and then baked. And into the soft cream cheese, 3 eggs, one at a time, so that each egg is incorporated into the mixture before I add the next one. Time for numero dos. My 3rd egg. And next, some sour cream, quite a lot, 300 mils. This is like essence of cheesecake, all its purest taste. No lemon, no vanilla. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and corn flour. I'm going to turn this down a bit because otherwise I'll just get covered. I want 25 grams of corn flour. Add gradually. I just want to make sure that the corn flour is completely absorbed, which it is. Get out my placeholder. See, look, it's lying down now, and all those creases look rather wonderful when it's unwrapped at the end. A final fold by hand. And as pale as the mixture is now, when it's ready and it's been in the oven for 50 minutes, at a hotter oven than you would normally cook cheesecake, 200 or 180 fan, it's going to be burnished on top, brown in parts. Well, it is a burnt cheesecake, but it is very jiggly underneath. Just have to trust me when I say it's ready, because it will carry on cooking as it cools, but it's meant to be soft set. That's part of its lusciousness. And before I put this in the oven, I like this part, I need to give it 5 firm raps on the kitchen counter to get rid of any air bubbles. So here goes. Just out of the oven, still hot, and you can see it's risen rather like a dense souffle. It will fall as it cools, as it's supposed to. And look, underneath that tortoiseshell top, it's still wiggly and wibbly. Perfect. Now for the licorice sauce. I start off with 300 millilitres of water in a pan, and I add 90 grams of caster sugar. Then I add 15 grams of pure licorice pellets, and once they're dissolved, I boil it all up until reduced by half. At which point, I pour the sticky dark syrup into a heat-proof jug. I live for salty licorice, so I stir in salt before leaving the sauce to get properly cold. Gently lift the cool cheesecake out of the tin, then peel back the paper, flatten it, and cut into luscious slices. This is just gorgeous with blackberries on the side. And now, all that remains is for me to enjoy a moment of silent communion with my licorice-laced cheesecake. There is more to overripe bananas than banana bread. And these specimens are destined for my chocolate tahini pudding cake to be eaten warm and squidgy and dolloped with cream. Now, they really are on their last legs. Excellent. I'll explain later. Right, so these bananas need mashing. Won't take long. Right, so they're ready for some oil, 60 mils. This is vegetable oil. In it goes, followed swiftly by 50 grams of tahini, which very conveniently fits into this little American quarter cup measure and won't stick because of the oil. And what tahini brings is not just that sublime sesame smokiness, but also a luscious texture. Also using this little measure, 50 grams of full-fat Greek yogurt. And I need a teaspoon of vanilla. Now sugars, 50 grams of caster sugar and 50 grams too of soft dark brown sugar with all its gorgeous treacliness. 1 large egg and beat till smooth. So now I'm going to get my dry ingredients organised. Chiefly, of course, flour, but not a great deal. I need 60 grams of flour. This is plain flour, but you can use gluten-free as well. Half a teaspoon of bicarb. Quarter of a teaspoon of fine sea salt. And I promised you chocolate, and here it is in its first manifestation, 25 grams of cocoa. Just want to fork everything together before I add the contents of this bowl to this beautiful buff-coloured batter, which will, of course, suddenly become a wonderful deep reddy brown. I'm going to fold in the last bit by hand. And I have more chocolate to add in the form of 100 grams of dark chocolate chips. Right, this just needs to go into my little oven dish. And by the time this has had 40 minutes in a moderate oven, by which I mean 180 Celsius or 160 if you've got the fan on, it'll be set on top, sumptuously tender underneath, and with a warm molten centre. Look at that little beauty. And underneath that soft crust, you can see in the cracks there, it's dark and puddingy and melting. And now I'm not going in, I've burnt my mouth on this so often that I'm going to let it stand there while I get on with the tahini cream. I've got 125 mils of double cream. And to that, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of tahini. I took the cream out of the fridge some time ago because I find that helps it thicken fast, and although tahini often makes it thicken faster anyway, so it should be just a few little stirs. And it is exactly the right texture. Well, I can hold myself away from it no longer. Oh, yeah. A dollop or two of this softly whipped tahini cream. And a real treat fake molasses, like sticky toffee pudding in a bottle. So gorgeous. This needs to be eaten in calm and appreciative silence.